Hello there, fellow Star Wars nerds, and welcome to Unlimited Content, the podcast where two brothers talk about all of Star Wars film and television in chronological order on the internet as an excuse to hang out more. We're your hosts, Sam and Jack, and this week we are talking about Tales of the Jedi, Episode 3, Choices.
With an exclamation point.
With an exclamation point!
Wait,
we added that. We added that. That's not the actual
always There's always an exclamation point. We have to. This is
very important, yeah. This exclamation points. This is the way.
Yes. All right, Jack. So, who is our sponsor for this week's episode? You know, we have a lot of bills to pay here at Unlimited Content, Unlimited Bills. Who is our unlimited sponsor? Totally Real this week.
Our totally real unlimited sponsor for this week is Mustafar Air Fryers. Eat healthier by taking your meals to the high ground.
Good.
Thank you to Mustafar Air Fryers for your support.
Always extra crispy, those Mustafar air fryers.
Delicious. Get it blackened.
Yes.
Yeah. Jack
Ford, how are you? It has been 2 weeks too long since we've spoken.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, it's been... We're finally back from our long 1 week hiatus.
Indeed. You know, that first episode was so intense. We worked so hard on it. We needed to take a sabbatical after that first episode.
That's what it was. Yeah.
It was a sabbatical.
We needed a break. It was too much. It was overwhelming. So we had to skip last week. We had to skip our second week of recording because I was going on a trip. I went to the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco for a few days.
Okay, fancy.
So that was fun. I got to go and see a bunch of friends and colleagues and a bunch of people who I know from online but I've never met in person, and then got to catch up with some people that I have met before but maybe not in a year. It was a nice event. It was nice getting to go see the sights. It was a little rainy. Like the first day the weather was nice, and then the second day it poured.
Yeah.
It was just pouring all day. There were like trees falling down on the road in downtown San Francisco.
Well, all of California is currently underwater right now. So they've been under a monsoon. Really? Well, there's just been crazy raining and floods for the last few weeks, and I know there's I've seen footage up in the mountains, they're getting feet of snow right now. It's just bonkers the amount of precipitation that is falling in California at this very moment. So I'm not surprised that you were almost flooded out of the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco because that's what's going on in California right now.
Yeah, so that's what I was up to last week and why we couldn't unfortunately record our second episode. But we're back now. We're back with a vengeance.
Oh yeah, we ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, Sam, why don't you tell me what you've been up to this week?
Dude, this past week or two, I have been up to basically nothing but just catching up on where Ahmed Best has been the last 20 years, because our Lord and Savior Ahmed Best has made his wonderful, glorious return to the world of Star Wars in The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 4. He is reprising his role not as Jar Jar Binks, although that would have been a lot of fun, but as Jedi Master Kelleran Beck, which was super cool to just learn that was a character that existed, because I didn't really know that it was a character that existed until after the episode. Well, I knew that he hosted a
No, I'm saying I didn't know.
Yeah, so you didn't know that Kelleran Beck was a character before?
No, I thought this was a character they introduced for the Mandalorian.
So there was a YouTube in Star Wars Kids show that was kind of remember that show on Nickelodeon that they were it was back in the 90s, and they showed it all the way through when both you and I were in elementary school, where it was this obstacle course show. It wasn't games and sports. It wasn't the Slime Time 2000, but it was it had this Mayan Mayan temple.
Oh yeah. Legends of the Hidden Temple.
So it has a Legends of the Hidden Temple vibe, except it's 3 teams of 2 10-year-olds competing. They're Jedi younglings going through the trials at the Jedi Temple, and Jedi Master Kelleran Beck is the one walking them through these trials. So it is an in-universe show, but it's a game show for kids that aired at it debuted like right at the start of the pandemic, is like when like the first couple episodes came out. But it was really cool to kind of like see Ahmed Best host this show. I watched the first couple episodes. I watched just because like I was like, there's no way they would just like make this unnamed Jedi show up like to be the one that saves Grogu from the Jedi Temple. But I looked it up and like it was there's just like 20 something episodes of this like game show, but like they all look exactly the same. It's just different kids every time, and I think the banter kind of changes, and you kind of like you learn some lore throughout the show itself, but mostly just like who Kelleran Beck is. But Jedi Master Kelleran Beck is essentially the dean of students for younglings.
Oh, that's awesome!
Jedi Temple.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it kind of makes sense that he is the one that saves Grogu. You know.
It's great. That makes that whole thing even better. Like, I love the fact that Ahmed Best showed up as an amazing dual wielding Jedi in this past episode, like the fact that there's even like backstory to this guy, that's cool.
His Jedi robes were more ornate than you see most Jedi have, because most Jedi just have plain brown, like khaki or dark brown robes, and the only other like Jedi I can think of who have elaborate robes is Jedi Master Jocasta Nu, who runs the Jedi Archives, and she has some elaborate embroidery. And so I was looking up, apparently the Jedi that have some sort of administrative role that's not just being on the council, but something that has to do with administration or the teaching of younglings, like in a formalized capacity, not just like they're like one of the best. Like Yoda does a lot of teaching, but he's also in the Jedi Council, and that's kind of his primary role. Like, those Jedi get to kind of have more elaborate robes, and Ahmed Beck actually designed a lot of the detailing on his robes, because apparently he teaches a class on, like, culture and Afrofuturism at, I want to say, Stanford? It's like some big college. Like, he teaches a college class on, like, culture and Afrofuturism and that kind of thing, and so he kind of like incorporated some symbolism of Afrofuturism and some like tribal tattoos that he has into the embroidery on his thing. So it was really cool. Yep.
You know so much more about Ahmed Best than I do.
I do. When I say I spent all the last 2 weeks just like, or I guess last week, just like stalking Ahmed Best and just like feeling just nothing but wholesome vibes for Mr. Best. I'm not joking. That's like literally all I've done. It's not all I've done, but it has taken more real estate in my brain than I ever expected it to. But I'm realizing that we might have some listeners who aren't exactly familiar with who Ahmed Best is and like what his history with Star Wars is. So Ahmed Best was the actor who in the 1999 movie Star Wars: The Phantom Menace played Jar Jar Binks. So he's the voice actor and the motion capture actor who played Jar Jar Binks. And he did a lot to advance just motion capture technology. But
yeah, he was an important, like, in the history of motion capture performance, he was an important thing.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
And he did an amazing job doing exactly what George Lucas wanted him to do, and doing this thing. And Jar Jar Binks is a character written for 7-year-olds. Every Star Wars movie has a character written for 7-year-olds. In the original one, it was C-3PO, and then Jar Jar Binks in the prequels was the big one, and then you got characters like BB-8 and stuff in the sequels. Like, there's always just like a character that's meant to sell toys and be funny for 7-year-olds, and Jar Jar Binks was that. But
which is great, because Star Wars is for everyone, including kids.
Yes.
Ultimately, they're most kids' movies.
Yes, they are.
And I love the fact that we're getting more like Star Wars stories that are more kind of mature and adult oriented and adult focused, like Andor and things like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, ultimately, you can't forget the fact that Star Wars is ultimately just like a fun action serial romp,
for sure,
made for young folks.
Yes. But Ahmed Best's character, Jar Jar Binks, as many of you are probably aware, was not received well critically, which is dumb because it's not for the critics, it's for kids. But a lot of the online... He was kind of like one of the first people to really get online hate and vitriol for a perfectly fine performance on screen. from just like the toxicity that can be and often is the Star Wars fandom. And it sent him to a really dark place. He had to go to therapy for a long time for it. He attempted suicide because of a lot of like the trauma that he received from Star Wars fans for his portrayal of Jar Jar Binks. And so it was really sad when a lot of that came out. He kind of came public with it around 2018 or so, with just like how Star Wars fans had treated him around the time they announced his YouTube show that he was doing, because I think they started filming in 2019 or something. So it had been like, it was a really dark place for him for a long time, and just it's very heartwarming to see Star Wars kind of extend this new role, this new character, and for him to play such a pivotal role in what is happening right now in Star Wars. Just because I've seen a lot of things online that like, it's great to see that this is Ahmed Best's redemption, quote unquote. Ahmed Best doesn't need a redemption. Star Wars.
Yeah, no. Ahmed Best has been. Yeah, Ahmed Best has been living his best life behind the scenes, just not in the public eye for a while, and now he's back, and now everybody's like, oh, you actually are awesome, and it's on us to be No, we're
Ahmed
sorry.
Best does not.
It was our fault.
Needs no redemption. He is great. He is the best, and Star Wars fans are the ones that owe Ahmed Best an apology, and it's really good just to see him back in Star Wars in a way that is being received much better than Jar Jar Binks was. Yeah, being embraced much more, and also just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like there's this collective realization like, oh wow, that was really crappy how we did that, and I hope that this kind of like, in the eyes of the fans, is a rehabilitation of like how we should be treating people, because this Ahmed Best was probably one of the first Star Wars actors to do this, but he was not the last.
Definitely.
I mean, a lot of actors from the sequels, especially the female actors from the sequels, got a lot of hate. I think Kelly Marie Tran just like noped out of social media after after whatever the second sequel movie was.
For the Last Jedi. It was
Last Jedi. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, she was bullied off of social media, and Daisy Ridley almost as much. So I just hope this is a turning point for the Star Wars fandom, because it's a really toxic place, and Jack and I are trying to make it less toxic just by being unapologetically wholesome, and just I am going to geek out and just throw nothing but love at Star Wars. But yeah, so that's I'm going to get off my Ahmed Best soapbox because we're not talking about Ahmed Best, we're talking about Tales of the Jedi. But
no, that's our other podcast. That's our spin-off podcast we're going to start, the Ahmed Best Show. It's going to be every week we're going to talk about, what did Ahmed Best post on social media this week? Isn't Ahmed Best the best? Isn't he great? And then it's just 5 minutes of that, and then it's over.
Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, and that would be worth your time, because he is the best.
Yeah. I think it's also like, was probably especially tough for him and for some of the other actors in the Phantom Menace. I know Jake Lloyd also, the actor who played young Anakin, went through a lot of the same sort of like ridicule and has had a rough time of it since then because of that experience. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that like the Phantom Menace came out during kind of the early days of the internet in a way. Like this was early days for like fandom existing on the internet, and for people like being able to kind of dogpile anonymously for the first time in this new way. I can't imagine that helped. But it's like you said, it's great to see Ahmed Best back, and I love that.
Yes. Wonderful. All right, Jack. What have you been playing? What have you been watching? What have you been reading? What else have you been doing?
Let's see. So, other than GDC, that was kind of my big thing last week. But let's see. I have been playing more games as usual. The most recent game I just started is the Resident Evil 4 remake, which came out this past Friday. I was been very excited for this one. The Resident Evil series is not a series that I like grew up playing. It's not a series that I actually really was all that interested in until like a year and a half ago, maybe, when I was like just kind of like looking at what are all the big game franchises that I never got into or never like that I feel like I should expose myself to because they're iconic and important, and I want to expose myself to a lot of different things and kind of understand how the medium got to where it is now. And one of those was Resident Evil, and I was like, yeah, I should probably play at least one of them. And so I played there was a remake of the original Resident Evil that came out on the GameCube.
Oh, cool.
In like 2002, I think. And I played that one, and I was going into it, I was not expecting to be super into it, just because it's all I really knew about Resident Evil was that it was just like it was a horror game, and I've never been super into horror.
Sure.
But what I was surprised and honestly delighted to find out is that Resident Evil it's horror, but it's more like a puzzle adventure game with exploration and puzzles and like just and all the things that I do love in games.
Yeah. Just
in the kind of the aesthetic of horror. Yeah. I mean, there are actual like scary moments, and you have to shoot zombies and whatnot. That's its bread and butter.
Yeah.
But I was really happy to find that that these games were something that I was like ended up really liking a lot. So then I played through most of the mainline Resident Evil games since then. So I played that one. I played the remakes of 2 and 3 that came out a few years ago. I played 7 and 8, which are the 2 most recent ones. And then I played Resident Evil 4, the original one, just a few months ago. And now the remake is out, and so I have the experience of having gone through the original, and now I'm playing the remake. And it's really sort of like surreal, because it's like this remake is kind of a halfway point between remake and reimagining. So like a lot of this stuff is like verbatim one-to-one the same, but other stuff is like massively expanded upon, or they rearranged some things about the story, or the combat's better, and so it's just like it's like playing just a massively upgraded version of the original.
Nice.
While it's still like a new experience in some ways. So I've really been enjoying it. Not super far into it yet, but it's super great.
That's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. I love the I don't know. I've never played really any horror games either. I'm not a huge gamer, but I know my wife is a big Markiplier fan. And so 3 Scary Games is kind of like a thing that's like always on at our house. We all like Sarah's always watching like the latest 3 Scary Games, or watching like a playthrough of some other game. So I love the idea of horror games, and I would love to like play someday. But I mean, I don't know. It's just like that sounds super cool. Like just like a puzzle game, because the way you're describing it, I view all video games in terms of how similar or dissimilar is this to The Legend of Zelda, because that's like really the only game that like I've played almost every installment of. It kind of, I don't know. Is it kind of like honestly, like Zelda puzzle?
It has a lot. It has a lot in common with Zelda in some ways. Honestly, like, I mean, obviously, it's a different aesthetic, a different setting, and it's you have a gun and you're shooting zombies, so it's different in that sense, definitely. And there's also a lot more focus on resource management, because it's survival horror. Like Resident Evil is the series that codified the term survival horror, basically.
Got it.
The idea that it's not just that there's scary things, it's that it's scary because of the mechanics of like you have to, you only have so many bullets, you only have so many like healing items, you only have so much like inventory space for your weapons and things. So you have to decide what do you want to keep and what do you want to leave behind, and so it adds that kind of aspect of like strategy and pressure to it. But honestly, it is beyond that, it's pretty similar to Zelda in that I think the original Resident Evil game, it takes place. I mean, it's called Resident Evil because it takes place in a house. It's just it's a big like creepy mansion full of secret passages and hidden doors and weird puzzles and cool art and stuff, and it's a lot like framework
of a Zelda game.
It's a lot like a one big Zelda dungeon essentially. Cool. So you're exploring this house, and you have to find different keys, and you have to solve puzzles that'll get you different items that you can bind together to make keys for other areas. So it's like you're slowly making your way through this house. It's just it has the added layer of trying to survive.
Nice.
To it, know.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I think you would enjoy it.
I believe that. That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, man. So you've been playing Resident Evil. Playing anything else? Any other
Yeah. So let's see. That's kind of the main thing that's been on. But I did on the plane back from San Francisco, I was playing a game called Spiritfarer, which is very much on like the opposite end of the spectrum from like Resident Evil. Spiritfarer, just a brief description. It's basically a how do I describe it? Spiritfarer is a game where you play as the successor to Charon the Boatman of like the River Styx, who like ferries people across the River Styx to the afterlife in Greek myth, you know?
Okay.
So the idea is that like Charon is retiring and you're taking over as the new Spiritfarer, as it were. And it's just this kind of adventure game / like almost like a maybe Animal Crossing / The Sims type thing, where you have a boat and you have all these different, you know, spirits who move onto the boat with you, and you have to like keep them all satisfied. Like you feed them their favorite foods, and you make sure that they, you know, have the kind of like home they want to live in, and you expand your boat over time and stuff. And it's the idea is that you're just going across this sort of ocean of the afterlife and exploring all these different islands, and it's really interesting. It's got a really beautiful art style and a great soundtrack, and gameplay wise, it's not super the kind of game I usually play, but I've heard so much good stuff about it that I wanted to check it out. And yeah, it's really good. I definitely recommend it. It's very like, it's kind of a Zen sort of game of like, you know, if you like something like Stardew Valley, it's a lot like that in that you're, you know, there's kind of farming elements to it, and there's social elements to it. There's not like a big time pressure or anything.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that. That's so cool. And it's like all kind of like Greek mythology kind of in there. That's cool.
Kind of yeah.
Like
it's kind of
inspired by, but not like
it's inspired by, but it has its sort of own like aesthetic. Like all the spirits, the afterlife spirits are all animals, so that's like they're kind of anthropomorphized animals. So there's like a deer and a frog and a seal, and anyway,
nice.
Yeah, but it's its own sort of mythos. But
yeah, I like that. Okay, so speaking of games, and you mentioned Stardew Valley, I have been thinking about getting Stardew Valley, just as like a fun kind of like unwindy kind of game. I don't know anything about it, but someone told me that, I think Sarah told me that I would like that game. But you mentioned this is kind of like Stardew Valley. Which one do you think I would like more?
So here's the thing: is I am actually not. I've never really gotten into Stardew Valley.
Okay.
I know a lot of people that love it. Like it's a very beloved game, and I get that. I've tried it out a couple times and just didn't really get into it. Like I like Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
For reference, but like this is a different from Animal Crossing in that it's a lot more focused on like you have a farm and you're trying to like you have like a limited amount of time each day to to water your crops and like also go around town and talk to people. It's like a combination of like a social sim and a farming sim.
Okay.
To me, I mean, it's one of those games that I'd like to actually like sit down and get into, and you know, at least figure out why it is that people like. I get why people like it, but I want to like try and see if I can experience it for myself and kind of work through the stuff I don't like about it, which is like for me, it feels a little bit too much like work. You know, but you know, there's just too much like too many options of things to do, and it feels kind of unguided, and I think some people really like slide into that really easily, and they're like, oh yes, I have this opportunity to like to manage things and figure out how I want to lay out my farm and how I want to spend this time. And there's like they get into the zone of like strategizing and planning things out in that way. I think I am the kind of person who would rather like that amount of like strategizing and planning would more stress me out than it would like you know, so that's kind of my perspective on it. But I know Max, our younger brother, he's played a lot of Stardew Valley. Okay. So I would definitely say talk to him about it. Yeah. And see what he thinks.
Max, hit me up.
Yeah, Max, if you're listening, which if you're not, how dare you? Shame. But you're not going to hear this anyway.
Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow. Dishonor on your whole family.
Dishonor on your whole family, but not us. No. Not us, your whole family.
On your whole family that doesn't listen, which is apparently only you, Max.
Come on, Max.
We love you, Max.
Yeah, but I would recommend either of those games. I mean, obviously, I'm enjoying Spiritfarer more immediately, but I would not be like don't play Stardew Valley, because obviously a lot of people love it. It just hasn't clicked for me. You know?
Okay. Cool beans. Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What else have I been doing this week? So obviously Mandalorian and The Bad Batch.
For sure.
We're getting episodes from those.
Love it.
Pretty consistently, which is great. Multiple Star Wars episodes, new Star Wars things every week. Yep. It's just a great time.
This week we're getting 3 episodes of Star Wars things, which is
because it's the like a 2-part finale for Bad Batch.
Both parts dropping at the same time.
That's awesome. I'm super excited about that.
As am I.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mando and Bad Batch have both been doing good. We definitely got some cool moments. Like we said, obviously Ahmed Best in The Mandalorian. We got that flashback to Order 66 with him and Grogu. We got the first time we've ever seen a mythosaur in Star Wars. Like, at least in film and television, I think this is the first time.
Yeah, I think they've obviously been in comics, but like, do those count?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm sorry, comics fans. We're not.
Yeah.
Don't listen to Sam.
Yeah, I'm just broke and have, frankly, Jack's Disney Plus subscription. So that's me.
Comics are an expensive hobby to get into. To be fair,
they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't get paid enough to do that. If I did, Lord help me, because I would not know how to stop myself.
Yeah. If only we had sponsors. If only we had more sponsors than
Mustafar air fryers.
Mustafar air fryers. We appreciate your support, Mustafar air fryers, but we could use a little more. We can use some more credits.
Yeah, credits will do fine. I promise you, credits will do fine. Please, please.
No, they won't.
No, they won't.
Yeah. Mandalorian, great. But honestly, what has been more exciting to me is The Bad Batch. Like, I love that show so much, and it's just super fun. And I love the kind of all of the interesting, like, clone related lore we're getting. We're getting to see for the first time, like, this is what happened to the clones in between the prequels and the original trilogy. Like, this is why there aren't really any clones anymore. This is what the Empire decided to do about it. And, so we're getting a lot of really interesting lore in that sense. And also, Crosshair has finally had enough with the Empire, and he's decided, you know what? I want out. And now we're getting him back. And I'm so excited.
It's about gosh dang time, Crosshair. Come on,
Crosshair.
Come on, Crosshair. I love Crosshair.
I love you.
Do you think Crosshair looks like Antonio Banderas? Because I do.
I could see that.
He looks like Antonio Banderas, specifically from Spy Kids. Like, specifically...
specifically Spy Kids era Antonio Banderas?
Yes.
Okay.
And I stand by that.
I could see that, I guess. Yeah.
If you don't know who we're talking about in terms of Crosshair, I'm sure you know who we're talking about with Antonio Banderas. And especially Spy Kids era Antonio Banderas. That's his
who hasn't
role.
Seen Spy Kids?
Yeah, right? That's his best role. Let's be honest.
It's a rite of passage for all people is to see Spy Kids.
It is.
Robert Rodriguez's masterpiece.
It really is underappreciated. Anyway, Star Wars. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah. Star Wars. So Mando, Bad Batch. Super excited to see how everything plays out in the finale.
Yes.
I have finally just about caught up on Critical Role.
I don't know how you did it. There's so much stuff.
There is so much stuff. But thank you. But there was a recent, like I said last time, there was a recent episode that came out that I didn't know what was happening in it, but I knew based on the way people were talking about it online that it was like, oh, this is a big deal. This is a big episode where things happen that are a big deal for the lore and for the story. And I was like, okay, I need to catch up before I get spoiled on whatever this is. And so I did eventually catch up to that episode, and I am one episode behind currently. But I'm past the point where it was like a big spoilery moment.
Nice.
And I'm enjoying it a lot. It's been very good. Definitely still recommend it if you have a spare 8,000 hours or however long. Yeah. That's hyperbole, but
not by
only kind of a bit.
Yeah. So
that's been great. And then this is something I forgot to mention last time. I have not been keeping up with this, but I want to catch up on the Last of Us show on HBO.
Yeah.
It is. It's. I watched the first 3 episodes, and the 3rd episode in particular is amazing. And if you know the story of that episode as it's presented in the game, they do a ton to like flesh it out and expand upon it and make it that was the episode where I was like, okay, this show has elevated the story in a way that's worth it, I think.
Nice.
Because to a point, like, so for those of you that might not know, The Last of Us is an HBO series that is based on a video game that came out in 2013 on the PS3, also called The Last of Us, and it's a zombie apocalypse survival drama story about a man and a young girl on a journey across America in the post-apocalypse of zombies and whatnot. And it's very well written and very well performed, and it was considered at the time to sort of be like a watershed moment for sort of more prestige style storytelling in games, and it made a lot of people sort of sit up and go, oh, games can tell great stories, you know? Not that they weren't already, right, but it was definitely that was a moment in time where a lot of people were like, oh, this is like people who didn't play games were like, this, just watching somebody else play this is like watching an HBO series. It's like watching a really good TV show or movie.
Yeah, and Jack, that's your whole thing is video games are really, really good storytelling, you know?
Yes, that is kind of my thing. Yeah. In case you don't know. I love video games. I love video games that tell stories.
Actually, around the same time that The Last of Us came out, I was taking a philosophy course in college. It was an aesthetics course, so it was like the philosophy of art and beauty. And I wrote a paper with Jack's help on why video games are art. That if movies are art, then video games are art. And
I vaguely remember that.
I wrote it, and I think
I do vaguely remember that.
I had a conversation with you, wrote it, and I think I sent you a copy of the paper. And I think that's all we did. But I wrote a paper in college based on a conversation we had. But yeah, so
awesome.
Video games are art. Video games are beautiful.
Yeah,
we love it.
Take that.
Yeah,
fools. Yeah. But yeah, so this was like this HBO series. I was feeling sort of like I was excited for it because I do like that game a lot, and I was excited to see how they adapted it. And because of the type of story it is and the fact that it already feels very much like a prestige TV show, I felt like there was a really good chance of them making a good adaptation of it because it's kind of like already made for it, you know? Yeah. At the same time, I kind of felt like, do we really need this? You know, like, do we need an adaptation of something that like the point of adapting something into a prestige television show is to tell an in-depth story with great performances and writing and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But The Last of Us, the game, already had all of that.
Yeah.
It already had amazing performances and writing, and so my like kind of trepidation about it was sort of like, do we need this? Is it necessary? And not to say that like it needs to justify its existence, but like if it's a good piece of art, then it's a good piece of art, and I appreciate that it's there. But I do have this kind of worry, I guess, that video games are only taken seriously when they're adapted into something else, or that like that there's this idea, this impression that people have of like movies or prestige television are like a higher art form than games are. And so like by adapting it into a television show, you're like validating it and like elevating it in some way, which to me, I feel like games don't need to be validated in that way. Cause like you said, games are art on their own already. Yeah. And, but that being said, after having watched the first few episodes, I am glad that they made this show, and I think they're doing a really good job of it. And there are some ways in which like, I think they're really taking advantage of the opportunity to have like more character work, more in-depth conversations, more like just pure story. Mm-hmm. And they're fleshing out some of these characters in really interesting and beautiful ways. And I think in some ways the story of the show, at least so far, has improved upon the story of the game personally. So that's I'm only 3 episodes in, and the show is actually, it's aired everything already, so I just need to catch up on it. But yeah, definitely highly recommend it unless you're squeamish. It's a very dark, very gory show at times. Yeah. So take that,
yeah,
as you will.
I've heard nothing but good things about it. The only negative thing I've heard about it is that it is just intense, and it's not for everybody.
It's
I was a huge Walking Dead fan. I love The Walking Dead, so I love me like prestige TV about zombie apocalypses. So I should probably watch The Last of Us. But yeah, so that's nice. Love that. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are like 30, 40 minutes in, and we haven't talked about we haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah.
About this week's episode, but we don't have to. We can just keep talking. These good people are probably going to still listen to us because they love us, because it's mostly friends and family listening to this, in which we love you.
Yeah. And if they're not listening to it, then man, whatever. We're just here to have an excuse to hang out more, right? It's in our tagline.
Sure. That's literally that was almost the title.
It's in the title.
I had to talk you down from that being the title, from it being like.
Listen, I still think I think the point when you were like, you know what, it's gonna be hard to like tell people the title of the show if I can't remember what it is. I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Also, unlimited content is I think a really good title. As soon as you came up with that, I was so
proud of myself.
That's good.
I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah, but yeah, the title was originally going to be.
It was.
See, I can't
two
even
brothers
remember.
Talking about Star Wars online as an excuse to hang out with each other more, I think. All right, the title was a sentence.
Essentially that, and I was like, yeah, we can just it's long, but we can acronym it.
We could, but that's harder to remember than the title itself.
It's like a 15-letter acronym. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, like I said, here we are. We're going to talk about what we want to talk about, and I hope you enjoy it. And if not, we're going to enjoy each other's company regardless. So
yeah.
So I guess I'll finish up real quick what I've been doing, and then we can move on to what you've been.
All the super interesting things I've been doing as a dad with a toddler, with all the free time I have.
I think your life is amazing, and I'm sure you have plenty of interesting things to talk about. So.
I mean, I can talk to you about how I watch The Bachelor every week with my wife and our friends. We can talk about that.
Okay, so let's see. Books is the last section. So I have not actually read any books this past week, but I do want to talk about a couple books that I want to read. So, so the first one is at the airport at SFO on the way back from GDC. While I was waiting for my flight, I stopped in the bookstore and I picked up. There was a little Star Wars books section, and I finally picked up Light of the Jedi, which is the first book in the new the High Republic era that they started not too long ago. Which, if you don't know, it's a new era of Star Wars they've started in canon that takes place like 200 or 300 years before the prequel trilogy. So it's like early days, like the kind of the height of the Jedi Order, when the Jedi were kind of, they were at the height of their power and of their status, kind of. That's my understanding. I haven't read the book yet, but so I picked that up, and I'm excited to get started reading that because I've heard very good things about it, and also it just sounds like an interesting era. And then the other thing is, just like a couple days ago, I discovered this on Spotify, but I think it's available elsewhere online too. But there is a fan recording, fan production of a unabridged Lord of the Rings audiobook, essentially. Ooh. So like one guy who is he's a voice actor and an audio producer and everything, and he his name is Phil Dragash, I believe is how it's pronounced. But he made a production of the Lord of the Rings where he read through the whole books himself. He does the voices. He also added sound effects, and he incorporated the music from the movies, the Howard Shore score from the Peter Jackson movies. So cool. It's like a full sort of production, and it's just available online for free because it's just a fan production, and it is currently on Spotify under the name Roads Go Ever On. So if you want to look that up, but it's if it's not on Spotify for whatever reason, when you hear this, you can just search online for Phil Dragash. That's Dragash. Yeah, I'm excited to get started because I listened to the first couple minutes of the first chapter, and I was like, oh, this sounds really good. This is really good.
Yeah.
And I've read a good chunk of the first book, but never got very far into it. And so I think that this will be like a good way of me like finally getting to experience the books themselves, because I've seen the films, I've seen the extended editions, but I've not. And I read The Hobbit growing up also, but I never read the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So I'm excited to experience this and kind of, you know, hear it in a way that's like I love good audio production in audiobooks.
Oh my gosh.
That I love the immersion that it brings, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll send it to you afterwards. It's super cool.
Yeah, because have you heard Andy Serkis's The Hobbit?
I have heard of it, but I've not heard it. It's like, I assume that's great because I love Andy Serkis. He's amazing.
So flippin' good because he does all the voices, obviously, because he's Andy Serkis and he's the best. Yes. But yeah, like
speaking of iconic motion capture actors, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I am gonna have to listen because I've read The Fellowship like a dozen times. I've started it a dozen times, finished it like once or twice. I've read The Two Towers once, and I have started Return of the King like a dozen times. And it's not for like a lack of of loving the material, because I love Tolkien's writing style. Like, I love just how visual he is, how like just people like knock Tolkien for like he spends 12 pages like describing the trees and mountains around you, but like I freaking love that. Like, I love
the language that he uses. Like,
I love reading a book and feeling like I'm outside. You know, like just like by what he's like, how he's describing things. Like he like there's a scene at the start of Return of the King where he's describing a sunrise, and it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. And I have been thinking about like jumping back into Lord of the Rings in my small and meager free time, but if there's an audiobook that is very well put together, as you say that there is, I'm going to check that out, because I want to finally finish Return of the King, and this is going to be the way I do it. So I love that, because I was kind of just like praying and hoping that Andy Serkis would just do The Lord of the Rings, because he should. And it's instant moneymaker. I don't know why they haven't done that yet, but probably just because Andy Serkis is a very busy man, and that would take forever to do. But yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, as you were talking about, like kind of the language that Tolkien uses to describe landscapes and things, and the imagery. Yeah. That reminded me of I was just like the other day I was kind of going down a Lord of the Rings rabbit hole, and I was I was listening to the song from the end of Return of the King. Into the West, which is a beautiful song. I love that song. And that's kind of what sent me down the rabbit hole, and it helped me find this podcast. But one of the things I came across was this quote, this passage that I love, where Gandalf is talking to Pippin about death, and Gandalf says, "Death is just another path, one that we all must take. The gray rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns silver glass, and then you see it. What, Gandalf? See what? White shores, and beyond, a far green country under a swift sunrise." So just, I don't know, just little like beautiful moments like that. That's what I love about Tolkien's writing, and is also why I want to actually read these books.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, no, Tolkien's writing for me is like, feels like what a cup of coffee feels like. Like, it's just like just a good cup of coffee on the porch, like just like relaxing, just taking a deep breath and just like feeling alive for just a minute. Like, that's what like reading Tolkien feels like. I just have the attention span of a goldfish, and I'm raising a toddler and working a full-time job. So like, reading Tolkien is a luxury that I don't often have. So, but audiobooks are a lot more accessible for someone in my state of life. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to freaking do it. Jack, hold me accountable to do it, because I'm going to do it.
Do it.
Okay, fine.
I'll ask you next week on our next episode. Did you?
Oh gosh, and then I'm going to be embarrassed because I'm not going to have that time to do it. No.
You brought this one yourself, Sam. You said call me out, and I immediately called you.
You did. I goofed. Oh man.
That was what I've been watching, listening to, reading. What about you, Sam?
What have I been up to? Other than stalking Ahmed Best on social media, which is what I've been doing. In terms of books, I don't know how to read, so I haven't been doing that. That's not entirely true.
That is a problem.
It is a problem. I do know how to read. I graduated college somehow with a liberal arts degree, so I hope I know how to read. But in terms of video games, I had a buddy come over and we cracked open some beers and we played through all of Mario Kart Double Dash, and it was awesome. So that's the last video game I played was Mario Kart Double Dash from 2003 on the GameCube. Still holds up, still great. But
Double Dash I think is like, I think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like the current Mario Kart, is like generally speaking the best Mario Kart. But I think as far as like Double Dash is the other one that I still play because it still holds up well and it's so unique compared to all the other ones. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love Double Dash.
I love that game.
I am very rusty. I'm not as good as I once was, but it was a lot of fun. I felt bad because, Russell, I know you're listening to this. I felt bad because I spent several years back, we had my friend Jack stayed with us for the summer, and we were interning together at my church, and in our free time, we played a lot of Mario Kart Double Dash. We played through all of Mario Kart Double Dash, and I got really good at Double Dash, and it's like the one game I'm better than most people at. I feel like, at least most people in the circles I run in, and I just said, Russell, you want to come over and play Double Dash? And we played it, and I won every single time.
Russell, what he's trying to say is that he stomped you, and he's not sorry.
I'm a little sorry. I feel bad. I was having fun, and I could tell that he was kind of just just mostly just wanting to hang out. But I was just like, Russell, I'm sorry. I kicked your butt at Double Dash, and I feel kind of bad, but I also don't feel that bad because I had a lot of fun. So, mixed feelings, you know? I don't know. Russell, I love you. You're a good man. Thank you for coming over and playing Mario Kart with me. So, I've been doing that.
Shout out to
Russell. He's getting married in like a month and a half, so that's exciting.
Oh, congratulations, Russell.
We love Russell. But yeah, so movies and TV shows. I finally watched Glass Onion, which is a lot of fun. It was so much fun. I won't spoil, but it was really good. It was slightly more predictable than the first Glass Onion, or first Knives Out movie.
Knives Out, yeah.
But it was just as fun. I love Benoit Blanc, great character, super fun.
Yes.
If I could just have Benoit Blanc just be in my life all the time, I'd be happy. He's great. I love it.
Just as an ever-present voice of quips.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've been doing that. Sarah and I, we watched Fleabag, which is an Amazon Prime series. Not for the faint of heart. Mm-hmm. It's very raunchy, but also just like very like human and heartwarming.
I've heard that's one of the shows that I've like heard amazing things about. Like it's one of those shows that like I feel like everybody says is amazing, and that I just have never put in the effort to actually look into like what actually is this, and should I watch it? But like, yeah, no, I mean I've heard nothing but
yeah. So it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Is that her name? Or Phoebe? Yeah. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yeah. It's her. Like she's kind of like the main character. She wrote, produced, and starred in this show. Very sexually explicit, so I would not recommend it if that's like not the kind of thing that you want to be spending your evenings watching. But it is very good, like just very like very human, very real, very just kind of like a study on like personalities and like just how different people interact. I don't know. It's just it's a very like very good characters, very good like it's a very character driven show. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Andrew Scott's character is awesome, hilarious, very witty. Yeah.
Andrew Scott of Sherlock.
Yeah,
is that the same guy? The guy who played
he did
Moriarty.
Yeah. So he plays a Catholic priest in the show, which is kind of fun.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so watch that, and then
Oh, fun fact! I believe Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's in Star Wars. She was in Solo. She was the voice of the droid. The droid that becomes the Millennium Falcon. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The droid whose brain gets uploaded to the Millennium Falcon.
I forgot.
And it is the Millennium Falcon, presumably. Yeah, that is Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
I have watched Solo one time. I liked it, but it just like wasn't
You watched Solo Solo,
and I
time.
watched it by myself too.
That's why they call it Solo, because I watched
Solo by myself one time. So there you go. Solo times.
Yeah. I remember fun. Enjoying it.
It's not the most memorable
like,
Star Wars thing.
No, agreed. Yeah, and we'll get to that eventually, assuming this podcast lasts.
We'll get to that in what, like 3 years, because we got to get through the Clone Wars.
Yeah, in 2086, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So watching that, and then obviously I've been watching The Bachelor, because that's what I do once a week with my wife and our friends. We have friends over who watch The Bachelor, so you don't want to hear about The Bachelor, no one but we watch it, and it's fun.
Hey, if you like The Bachelor, if you want to talk about The Bachelor, we can talk about The Bachelor. I don't know anything about it, but if you're into it, if that's what your life is, I want to hear about it, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so what's most fun about I really don't like The Bachelor, but I like watching The Bachelor. If that makes sense.
You like the experience of watching The Bachelor.
Watch The Bachelor with a group of friends, because we watch it like you watch a sporting event. Mm-hmm. Right, where it's interactive. You're watching it happen, and you are reacting to what's happening on screen, and you're having conversations while you're watching it, and how everyone on the show is dumb. And we make a drinking game out of it, which is fun. So that's kind of like our Bachelor watching experience. Is having a really good group of like 5 people over, watching it, like drinking every time something stupid happens. So we. There's a lot. We take sips. We're safe. We're responsible. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a hoot and a half while watching The Bachelor. The finale.
The whole hoot and a half.
A whole hoot and a half. You get your money's worth out of hoots. But the finale, I think, is airing right now. So we're gonna watch the finale on Wednesday, because that's when we watch The Bachelor, is on Wednesday nights. Ah. Yeah. Cool. So that's when we watch on Hulu on Wednesday nights. But yeah, that's what we do. That's my life. I do that. One thing I am very excited about, they had announced it previously, but we got a poster for it today, and an official release date is Star Wars. I think it's called Young Jedi Adventures or Youngling Adventures or something. It is a Disney Junior Star Wars show.
I do remember seeing that. Yeah.
And I have a daughter who is 2.
Yes.
And her favorite show right now is Spidey and His Amazing Friends. And it is. Yeah. So it's
I'm so
Spider-Man,
proud.
Gwen Stacy Spider-Man, and Miles Morales Spider-Man. Them 3 are kind of like the main 3 characters. And this is basically that, but Star Wars, and Yoda's in it. And I'm very excited to have a show to watch with my daughter that is Star Wars. And so we got a poster for it today, and it's going to be a lot of fun. She's got her Grogu pajamas. She has her stuffed Grogu that she sleeps with, and I'm trying to raise her right, do all the right things. I'm trying to be a good dad. So
yeah, number 1, indoctrinate her early into the Star Wars fandom.
Absolutely, you got to. I mean, you were. That's why we're here. Yeah, I mean, they didn't have kid shows. They just had the original trilogy when we were her age. But like, come on. True. There's just that much more opportunity for her to fall in love with Star Wars. We watched this week Star Wars Forces of Destiny, which is like 2 seasons of like 3-minute Star Wars shorts that are all centered around female Star Wars heroes, which is really cool. Like there's a lot of like Leia and Padme and Ahsoka and Jyn Erso, and I'm forgetting others. Rey has several episodes. Rose and Finn have one, which is pretty good. But it's just kind of like fun watching, and she just is locked in on them. I don't think she realized what's going on, but
that's great.
It's Star Wars, and she sees women on TV being heroes in something that she's engaged in. And that's what I want for my daughter, is for her to have a good fandom and to have good female role models as a female herself. So that's what I want. So, and it's great. So we get to enjoy that together.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, the more diverse Star Wars content that we have that appeals to a lot more groups of people, and the more inclusive we can be, the better. And I think especially the more women focused Star Wars stories we can get, the better. Yeah, definitely. So that's awesome to hear.
Yep. So we did that. That's what I've been watching. And that's what I've been reading. That's what I've been playing. So that's So what's new and upcoming in Star Wars? Obviously, we got the Star Wars Little Kids show coming out for Disney Junior and Disney Plus. That I'm really excited about. I forget what it's called, but it's coming, and I'm excited. Is there anything new?
I am hyped as of 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, as you should be. Show. Come on, Jack.
Anything else coming? I mean, like, Star Wars Celebration is just in a couple weeks or something, right?
So
like,
we're probably
it's coming up pretty soon.
We're probably not going to get anything new or exciting until that comes around.
Yeah, and but presumably when that happens, there will be a lot of
so much
exciting announcements and things, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yep, I know. Ahsoka is. I think they're wrapping up post production right now. They're getting ready to release that. I think I saw today. This isn't exactly Star Wars, but it's Disney Plus related. That Marvel Secret Invasion is coming out in June.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw.
We haven't seen anything from that, have we?
We got a trailer.
There
6 months,
a trailer?
6 months ago, we got a trailer.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
That's it. It was kind of just like Nick Fury and a couple Skrulls, and that's all we saw. Mm-hmm. Which is like we already knew that. That's what Secret Invasion is. Yeah. We knew that. Like that's not a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but yeah,
I am. Yeah, this could be a conversation that would go on much longer, so I won't go too far into it. But I've been falling off the Marvel wagon for a little while now.
So have I.
I feel like post Endgame, like Endgame was great.
Yeah.
Post Endgame, there hasn't been a ton that I've liked. I really liked Spider-Man: No Way Home because I'm a huge Spider-Man fanboy, and that was nothing but amazing fan service, and I loved that. And then of the Disney Plus shows, I liked Loki up until the last episode when I feel like it really fell off and was disappointing to me. And Don't then the one Disney Plus show of the Marvel shows that I've really liked and felt like stuck the landing was Hawkeye. It wasn't amazing, but I thought it was a lot of fun and really felt like it knew what it was and was interesting and fun from start to finish. And I feel like so many of the other, all of the other shows and movies that have come out since then, beyond since Endgame, beyond the ones I just mentioned, have all been just sort of okay and they're showing us things that we've already seen, or I don't know. It's just that there's nothing all that surprising or interesting happening much anymore. I'm still excited about Black Panther 2 was good.
Yeah.
It didn't stick out very much to me, but I enjoyed it. And then I am excited to see what Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is because I love the first two of those movies. But yeah, I don't know. I'm think I'm getting to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm sort of done with the MCU. I'm ready for more it's not like I'm done with these characters, but I maybe am ready for new interpretations of these characters.
Sure.
I think for me on the DC side of things, they obviously have a much more hit and miss track record generally, I think, in terms of movies and television shows and stuff, but at least we're getting different interpretations of things. 'Cause I feel like that's what comics have always been about, is taking the same sets of characters and stories and settings and then giving them to different writers and artists so that we see different versions, different adaptations, different interpretations of these characters. Yeah. So we got the Snyderverse, we got Batman v Superman, we got Justice League, but we also got The Batman, which I thought was an amazing movie.
Yeah. I don't know how I still haven't seen it yet. I still haven't seen The Batman.
It's really good. It was my favorite Batman movie since The Dark Knight. I think, which, I mean, to be fair, is not a super high bar.
There's only one other one.
Well, I mean, there was that, and then there was Batman v Superman, and anyway. But yeah, point is, I thought it was really great, and it's my top two Batman movies are those two now. Cool. And I thought it was great. And we also got the Joker, which sure. But it was there. The point, though, is that we're getting different interpretations. We're getting different, we're getting at least a diverse set of ideas and of voices. And that's more interesting to me right now than one cohesive universe that, honestly, the MCU has started to feel really sort of stale and, repetitive. And, they've, it's been formulaic for a long time, but in a way that, I hadn't gotten tired of it, and it was still fun and enjoyable, and it was cool because we were sticking with the same set of characters for this whole time, and now a lot of those characters have left, or we don't have kind of the solid like Iron Man and Captain America were the two Marvel characters that we had that kind of were the foundation of the Marvel movies, and now neither of them, at least these incarnations of them, are in it anymore. and so I feel like it's kind of lost its like the heart of it in a
Sure.
way. But that's been my experience.
No, I get that.
That's my brief soapbox
Yeah.
on Marvel.
Yeah, I've not been. I hate to say this, just because like I try to be such a loyal fan to things. Like if I enjoy something, I'm not gonna dump on it. Like if it like kind of starts to trail off, unless it's the Star Wars sequels, because it just feels so hurt and betrayed. Anyway, but yeah, Marvel. I've just been sort of.
Listen, Sam. Let the past die.
Kill it if you have to.
Shut
up. I don't know. Like I've been such a Marvel stan for so long that it kind of feels weird to admit that like Marvel's kind of lame right now. Like I saw Ant-Man Quantumania and it was fun, I guess, but like it wasn't that good. You know, like.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but like, there's a handful. There's quite a few Marvel things that I just haven't watched because I haven't been interested or they haven't gotten great reviews, and I've just been like, I'll watch it when it's on Disney Plus. Which is the other thing. It's like everything comes to Disney Plus eventually, so like, why would I go into a theater and see it unless it's something I'm genuinely excited for? Like it used to be that I would see every MCU movie in theaters, regardless of you know whether I was necessarily specifically excited for that because it was part of a larger story that I was invested in and excited about, and now I don't feel as invested in or excited about it, and so that kind of investment isn't there anymore, and so I'm just like, I can wait for it to come to Disney Plus or just never watch it.
Yeah, they're trying to build up around like make Kang the Conqueror the next Thanos right now, and it's just he's not. I don't know. Thanos had like an 8-year build up. For us to like Thanos is mentioned in the first Avengers movie, like in 2012, right? And then
and he just gets briefly dropped at the end. He doesn't say anything. We just see his face, and then we get a little bit of him in a few post-credit scenes over the like it took like 8 years for us to finally actually see him and see his story, and then we got basically a whole movie dedicated to his backstory and his whole deal. Infinity War was basically that's what that was, or at least half.
And now they're trying to do that with they're trying to do that with Kang, but they like introduced him in Loki, which was like 2 years ago.
Him in the final episode of a Disney Plus series, and it was just kind of like I don't know.
And then he was already the bad character. Guy in one movie. Like he was the bad guy in Quantumania, which like he wasn't super compelling of a bad guy. You know,
he hasn't been like nothing against Jonathan Majors as like an actor. I'm sure he's great, but like just the way that he was written and shown in Loki when he's first revealed, like because there's so much build up in that show to like who's behind the scenes, who's pulling the strings, and then it's just kind of a guy who's kind of weird,
right? Like
it has the same sort of feel of like how like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was in Batman v Superman. He's just sort of like he's just kind of a weird little guy with weird mannerisms, and he's also a villain because we say he's the villain. It didn't feel like he was a character with a solid motivation or that he was like in any way compelling or mysterious or
Jesse Eisenberg is just like, oh, you're just a rich egomaniac who's kind of lame, like you.
Yeah, as most rich egomaniacs are, to be fair.
Yeah, but that's true. So, but those are real and
true to life performance.
Oh, anyway, MCU not as exciting. Thankful that Star Wars is ramping up again, and
yes, we're getting a lot of like again. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to talk about the sequels whenever we get there in 800 years. But like I feel like after the sort of. In some ways, it was like, I didn't hate those movies, but they were definitely a disappointment in a lot of ways. And I think now, the television stuff has really started to step up. And like, I mean, the television stuff has always been good. Like, Clone Wars has been amazing for years, and I loved Rebels when it came out. And but like now we're getting, both great animated series and great live action series.
For sure.
At the same time, and there's more coming, and it feels like a good time for Star Wars. Definitely.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of being a good time for Star Wars, we should probably talk about Tales of the Jedi.
All right. So this week's episode as we said, is Tales of the Jedi Episode 3, Choices!
Yes.
Exclamation point. We added the exclamation point.
Yep.
If you have trouble finding it on the internet, it's probably because you put an exclamation point on it when you're not supposed to. We added that. So, sorry for leading you astray.
Yep.
But, Sam, tell us when in the timeline this episode takes place.
This takes place between 50 and 42 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah, so we've got a pretty... Yeah, these like, the Tales of the Jedi episodes, they're recent enough and, like, kind of vague enough that we don't actually have a specific, like, year or, like, place in which they take place in the timeline. We know, like, approximately when, but, like, the further down we get, like, when it comes to, like, specific episodes of the Clone Wars, for example, or the movies, we'll have, like, more, like, this is the year that it takes place in. But right now it's like, sometime in this 8-year period, like, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
Sam, do you want to walk us through the synopsis of today's episode? What happened?
I do. So today's episode is called Choices, not an exclamation point, and it opens with a shot of the T6 shuttle, otherwise known as the Galactic Camry. It comes back. This is the same ship they fly in the first episode that we watched. We gotta love the Galactic Camry.
I like the idea that like the Jedi are like elite government agents, but the government just gave them a Camry to drive around in.
I mean, honestly, it's a cool looking Camry, but like it's a Camry,
Yeah.
So it's going.
Yeah.
Anyway, we know it's at least from 50 BBY to at least 6 ABY, because that's when we see Ahsoka flying one at the end of Rebels. So anyway, so it opens up and we find out that it opens up with Count Dooku and Mace Windu. This is our earliest sighting of Mace Windu. Flying together to a planet called Raxus Secundus. They're flying there because a Jedi Master, Master Katri, is dead. And they're going to investigate what happened. So they're flying to Raxus Secundus. They're investigating conflict, and we see the initial conflict of the episode. The conflict being between Mace Windu and Count Dooku, and their kind of conflicting views on the role of the Jedi really kind of come to light. So Dooku wants to do what he perceives as right. Policy be damned. He's going to do what's right, what he believes is correct. Mace Windu is he sticks to the book. So that's kind of the conflict that we see in this episode.
Yeah, Mace Windu as a character is very interesting because he was a character written for Samuel L. Jackson, who is such a big personality, and yet Mace Windu is like the most like blank-faced, by the book, like boring Jedi. Yeah. He's just like he's got a proper lightsaber, which is awesome, but like man, what a nerd.
Yeah, he's by the book, but he also is like kind of one of the more warmongery Jedi Masters on the Council.
He does a lot of killing. He honestly does. Like as we'll see later in this episode.
We get our first confirmed kill. I won't tell you who it is, but it's probably Mace Windu.
Yeah, and then like Mace Windu is the only Jedi we see like. No, that's not true. I was gonna say he's the only Jedi we see behead someone, but no, Yoda beheads 3 people at once in Revenge of the Sith
during Order 66.
But anyway,
when other Jedi are like, I can't kill them; they're my friends. Yoda does not hold back. He's just like, oh, something's different. Zip, you're done. Anyway, So the two Jedi of differing views on the law they land on Raxus Secundus in what looks like the capital city, and they're meeting with someone named Senator Larrick or Senator Larrick, whatever. I don't forget how they pronounce it. I wrote it down, forgot how they pronounce it. So they're meeting with Senator Larrick, who I wonder when I was watching it if the voice actor for Senator Larrick is the same voice actor as Saw Gerrera, because they sound similar. But that's just kind of an aside. That's just like what I got. I don't know. I didn't look it up. We could check IMDb.
As which version of Saw? As like old Saw or
Clone Wars
young
Saw? Clone Wars Saw.
Okay, that's possible then. Yeah, I'm not sure because I don't think they would have gotten.
It was not Forrest Whitaker. It was for this. It was an animated Saw. Yeah, animated Saw.
Yeah.
So.
And Forrest Whitaker did do some like I think he was in Rebels.
Okay.
Like when older Saw Gerrera was in Rebels. But
yeah.
Anyway,
no, it's definitely Clone Wars Saw. Anyway, so they meet with Senator Lyric, and Senator Lyric basically kind of tells them that you kind of get this kind of like this kind of greasy politician vibe from him, at least I did, of kind of like, he said, yeah, it's a tragedy that like this Jedi Master died, and he doesn't give a lot of details. Like, it all happened so fast, I don't know what happened. Like, she's dead now.
It really feels like he's hamming it up, yeah.
Yeah. And they get no details, and Mace Windu and Count Dooku both agree, once he's out of earshot, that, like, he's hiding something. Like, there's no way he's not hiding something. And Mace Windu's like, we should report to the council. And then take from there, and Count Dooku's like, no, we're gonna get to the bottom of this right here, right now, because that's what's right.
Yeah, we're here already. What are you talking about?
We're already here. Yeah, I'm gonna wield a machete to cut through this red tape, and we're going to figure out what is going on with Master Katri. Why is she dead? What happened?
Was that a cake reference?
That was absolutely a cake reference. Yes. Cool. Yes.
All right, continue.
You're welcome. Yeah, so Count Dooku somehow convinces these guys to take them back to the scene of the crime where this happened. And they're like, the scene has this in, but they're like, okay, I guess we're gonna take you back there. So they go back, and it's in this beautiful, idyllic, like, wooded area. And you can see blaster fire sprayed in the trees. Like, there's just clearly, like, the trees have been cut up by blaster bolts.
Like blaster marks. And, yeah.
And the Jedi kind of quickly realize, like, so you said you landed the ship here. And you said there was an ambush. And that the Jedi died because of the ambush. And they're like, they immediately call BS on that. They're like, there's no way that a Jedi got ambushed, because they would sense it before it happened, unless their guard was down because they were with people they trusted.
Yeah.
Right?
And the other thing they point out is the fact that, like, there were no blaster marks on the ship itself, meaning that the blasts would have come from the ship.
Yeah, that it was that this was one-way blaster fire that was going on here. And I didn't write down exactly what happened in kind of the interim, but they kind of they call Senator Lyric out. Like, clearly something happened, and Senator Lyric was like the guards, and then he runs towards the Jedi for protection, but the guards shoot down the senator. So the senator's own guards shoot down the senator.
Yeah, which is not how I expected that to go. I mean, I've seen this episode before, but I mean, like, the first time I watched it, it was like, you know, I feel like you're meant to think that the senator is the sleazy. I mean, he is a bad guy, but, like, you're meant to think that he's the one who, like, ordered the Jedi to be killed, when in fact it was his guards rebelling against him. So that was kind of a neat little twist.
Right. Yeah. So the guards, we get two guards who talk, and one guard basically kind of says that Senator Lyric was just kind of like living his life on Coruscant and just using his position to get rich, which is a novel concept for a politician. Yeah.
Honestly, it's very, like, the premise of this episode is very similar to the last one.
It is.
In that, like, you know, last time we got, they're both stories about, you know, people who feel they've been wronged, and are not being properly represented by the people who are supposed to be representing them, and they decide that they need to take matters into their own hands in an extreme way in order to make change happen,
right?
Because the system as it currently stands is not working in their favor. So it's interesting that we get two episodes back to back, both of them involving Dooku, about, you know, these systems not working for people and people having to break the rules in order to fix things.
Yeah. So we get this kind of revelation, and there's a shootout, there's a firefight, and ultimately there are 2 guards left and 2 Jedi left. And one of the guards shoots at Mace Windu, and Mace Windu deflects the blast fire with his purple lightsaber and kills the one of the 2 guards remaining. So that is our first
canon kill!
Canon timeline kill in Star Wars. Mace Windu.
By a major character.
Yeah. Mace Windu kills a Raxus Secundus Senator guard. There it is.
I'm gonna add a sound effect there. I'm gonna add like a like an air horn or something. Like a yay!
Yeah, that's what we want to do. Celebrate death.
Mazel tov.
Yep.
First kill.
Woo!
Thanks, Mace.
Thanks, Mace Windu. But there was so it turns out that the guards killed the Jedi Master Katri and then were blackmailing essentially Senator Alaric to do what they want, to get him to do his job for the people of Raxus Secundus, rather than to enrich himself with his position. And there's a really good quote that the one surviving guard, his name is Samaj, which I wrote down as just James backwards, but Wikipedia has it written out differently. So Samaj, he says, Jedi claim peace, but mostly claim law and order for the rich and powerful. And that's like kind of a big theme of really these two first episodes that we've covered in canon, of the system not working for people and the system really being broken. And this really kind of like beyond just setting up Count Dooku's disenfranchisement with how things are and leaving the Jedi Order because of it, is really kind of sets up why the Republic falls to Palpatine at the end of Episode 3. And just kind of like, this didn't just happen. Like, it was already really corrupt and nasty and not working for a lot of people, and it was ripe for the picking by the right powerful person at the right time.
I think a lot of the prequel era stories, especially the animated ones, are all about kind of showing us the perspective of the average folk and of how, like, to them the Jedi are not heroes. You know, to most people it seems like the Jedi are they're not saviors. They're not, like, keepers of the peace. They are enforcers of the current status quo.
Right.
And a status quo that does not serve everyone properly. Like I said with the last episode, like the themes are very similar in this episode, but like, I think they were both great episodes, and they work well together, and it makes a lot of sense that these are kind of the themes that they're leaning into, because that's that's what the Clone Wars essentially is about from a thematic perspective, is the
and the
systemic collapse.
And the cherry on top of this episode is after they leave Raxus Secundus in the Camry, they take the body of Master Katri back to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant to be buried. And Ki-Adi-Mundi, wearing an oversized hood for his oversized head, eulogizes her. It was so weird. Silly. So weird. I don't know why that was so funny, but it's really funny. It just looks like
Ki-Adi-Mundi and his big old head. They decided, you know what, we need to make a hoodie for this guy.
Good old Conehead Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Who had the job of making...
Yeah. Jedi Master Conehead eulogizes Master Katri. And then after that, they kind of all walk out onto this plaza where there's like... Is that the same place with like the tree that we see in Clone Wars and whatnot and in other episodes? Because it kind of looked like it.
Maybe it looks similar. I'm not sure.
I don't know if we didn't see the tree, but it felt,
but it could be.
It felt like the same thing.
The kind of courtyard area.
Yeah. At the end, we see all the Jedi walking out, and Dooku staring off into the sunset with his back to everybody. Mace Windu walks out, and Dooku calls him over. He's like, "Did I hear that you got promoted to Master Catri's spot on the Jedi Council?" And it turns out that yes, this is. Like, Dooku took Master Catri's spot on the council, took her empty seat.
You mean, sorry, Mace?
Yeah, excuse me, yes. Mace Windu was given the fallen Jedi Master Catri's seat on the Jedi Council. And Dooku kind of just, like, hammers home, like, so, like, let me get this straight. Did you know that you were going to get this before we went? Or was this in your head? And Dooku's like, oh, no, I was just as surprised as you were that I was going to get this spot.
Mace, you mean?
Yeah, Mace Windu. I'm sorry.
You keep saying... It's okay.
It's late. I'm tired. It's been a long day.
It is late.
And there's a lot of names in Star Wars, and I keep tripping. Anyway, so...
There's, Dooku, Windu.
Dooku, Windu. They're close. Yeah, so... Mace Windu says, well, yeah, I did things by the book, and the people who wrote the book rewarded me for it. was basically the end of the episode.
Yeah. And he also said like, and you went off the book, and your actions led to the death of a senator.
Yeah. He blamed.
That was kind of his like clapback.
Yeah, he blamed Count Dooku for the death of his senator when like that's not fair. That's not fair at all. Like,
yeah,
it's like a little fair in that like if they had followed protocol, sure the senator might not be dead, but also they wouldn't have figured out what happened to the Jedi Master. You know, like, so I don't know, but it just seemed like, and then like the episode ends with Count Dooku basically going, "Huh, interesting," and then turning away and turning his back on all the Jedi. And that's kind of how the episode ends, as he turns his back on everybody. Yeah. Like literally, physically, he turns. There
was one brief moment we skipped over, I think, which is where Dooku visits the one living guard back in his jail cell.
Oh yeah.
And he basically walks up to him and he's like, I don't agree with your methods, but your ideology, while flawed, does have some merits to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the guard says, "Wow, that's surprising coming from a Jedi." And Dooku basically says, basically encourages him and is like, don't let your people back down from this. It's going to take hard work for you to succeed here.
Yeah.
And it you get the impression that Dooku is on the side of the people in this case, and he, it's interesting that like, Dooku, who eventually becomes a Sith Lord, we're seeing these episodes where he's like very much on the side of the people, and he's like on the right side of things. He just gets like, I mean, we'll see in the the next episode that we see of him, but like, he gets sort of just disillusioned and jaded over the whole process, and the fact that the people who are supposed to be protecting the innocent and the needy are not doing that. And I think the fact that they end with Mace Windu getting a position on the Jedi Council, it just drives home the fact that like not only are these systems and these groups, these people corrupt, but like they will only ever promote people who agree with them.
Yeah.
They reward loyalty and fealty to the rules as written, and not necessarily to people who have the right ideas and the right intentions.
Yeah.
Because as it seems like Mace in particular and the Jedi Council as a whole tends to have more of an interest in following the rules and following protocol rather than considering, are these protocols and rules just, and are they effective? Is this the way things should be? Mm-hmm. Really, really interesting episode. Definitely.
Yeah. Jack, who's your MVP this episode?
I'm gonna say Ki-Adi-Mundi's hoodie is my MVP for this episode. Because I mean that hood's got to do a lot of work to hide that big of a forehead. Like, that is impressive.
Yeah.
I gotta give it to him.
Yeah.
On a more serious note, I would say probably Dooku, just because like he's in this position where like, yeah, obviously we know he becomes a bad guy. We know that he turns to the dark side and becomes a Sith and murders a bunch of people. But in this episode, we get to see a side of him that is like dedicated to pursuing justice and to rooting out. We get to see Dooku in like detective mode for a bit. I thought that was cool. We got like a very brief like little like police procedural type like mystery episode in the middle of this.
Yeah.
We got to see him like do a little bit of detective work and a little bit of asking questions and then kind of not delivering justice, I guess, because he doesn't kill anybody. He doesn't try to kill anybody either. It's actually Mace is the one who ends up killing anybody.
I know.
Which is interesting.
Which is on brand for Mace Windu.
Honestly, yeah. But yeah, I think it's got to be, for me. It's got it's either that hoodie or Dooku.
For sure.
What about you?
I want to say Samaj. I think Samaj is my MVP.
Just honestly, yeah. Like,
because I think he's the most interesting character other than Dooku. And this is his only shot to be MVP, so I think I got to give it to him.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sure Dooku's going to get... No, probably not. But maybe in a Clone Wars episode, who knows. But, yeah, I think that quote really just kind of like, he hit the nail on the head with what the Jedi are doing right now. And kind of like, he sees the cracks in the armor.
He sees through the lies of the Jedi.
Yeah.
As Anakin would say.
He does see through the lies of the Jedi. And, yeah, I honestly think, so that quote, that Jedi claim peace, but mostly claim law and order for the rich and powerful. It's just that real kind of like, not the best methods of like killing a Jedi to blackmail a senator, but like,
yeah,
he's doing the best he can with what he thinks is right, and
yeah,
it's
obviously
a tough position to be in.
Yeah, totally. It's like, when you don't have, when you're not in a position of power, there's only so much you can do to affect change, and to a certain extent, yeah, like, obviously it's not great that he killed people or blackmailed people, right. But like, it's also not great that his senator is letting his people die and his planet suffer.
Yeah.
And not to justify like violence, but like, yeah, you're right, and then that like he at the very least had the balls to like stand up and try and do something about it and try and serve his people in a way that like their senator wasn't.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like that's a deserving MVP slot.
Yeah. I mean, there was no like real true virtuous hero in any of this episode, but like if I had to pick one other than Ki-Adi-Mundi's hoodie, it would be Samaj.
Yeah.
Yep.
Way to go, Samaj. Way to go, James backwards.
Yeah, backwards James.
Or however it's actually spelled.
Yeah. It was like S-E and then mage was how they spelled it on Wikipedia. But I like James backwards better. S-E-M-A-J.
Cool.
Better. Way better.
Excellent.
Anyway, no Wilhelm screams. Sad.
No Wilhelm screams. Yeah.
Yeah. One day. Probably episode 1.
I would ask, I guess let's end on what was your favorite part of the episode?
My favorite?
Because I think we already kind of talked about how like this episode fits in the larger Star Wars universe and how it improves upon things and adds to the
how it
lore
makes Star Wars better,
the characters in the story.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, did you have a favorite moment or a favorite scene in this episode?
Let me think. I really liked the little detective thing we got going on in the middle of the episode, and the kind of like, I don't know, I got like Batman vibes from Dooku. Walk around his black cape, solving mysteries, and be like, all the bullet holes were that way, and your ship was the other way. Strokes beard. You did it.
That is a very Batman moment.
It is a very Batman moment. So I like Dooku's Batman moment being my favorite part of the episode.
Yeah.
What about you?
Speaking of which, I love his outfit. He looks so good. I love that dark, like, the other Jedi by comparison who are like wearing like just kind of these pale colored tunics. It's like, yeah, it's all right, but like, I like the fact that he looks a little more, I guess, Count-ish. Yeah. He's a little more regal.
Dooku always has
also still. Yeah, he looks like regal and like kind of fancy and impressive, but while also still looking like this could be a good outfit for being a Jedi and for lightsaber and stuff. It's not like cumbersome, but it's still cool.
Yeah. What was that there's that image of Count Dooku from like the Star Wars explainer book where it's just kind of like that. There's like, you remember those Star Wars diagram books? They kind of like, and there's that image of Count Dooku, and it just has an arrow pointing to his face, and the caption was the signature look of superiority. And that's just kind of like Dooku's air of just like, I'm better than you. And just like how he carries himself, he's just like, I know I'm better than you. So just the way Dooku dresses and carries himself is very man, what an excellent villain. What a great when he's the bad guy, he just eats it up. He hams it up, and he's just like, I mean, it obviously it helps. It's all due to Christopher Lee's like presence and his performance in those movies that like established this character. But, it shows through in this as well, even though it's not Christopher Lee anymore, unfortunately. But although I don't even know if it was Christopher Lee in the animated series either. I don't think it was.
Yeah. Anyway, Great performance regardless this time around.
Yes.
My favorite scene...
We love Dooku.
Yeah. I would say, like, since you already said that, I think, like, I loved that part, but I think, honestly, my favorite moment was, like, I love that we got a little... Like, it was short, but we got a little action scene in there with two Jedi fighting and just, like, you know, in the course of, like, 30 seconds, absolutely dominating this group of droids and guards. Of, like, they toss up smoke, and they're, like, kind of darting through. It is very Batman in that sense too, where they're kind of, like, ninjaing around a little bit, and, like, it's super cool. And then at one point, I think Dooku, like, chops down a tree that falls on it and like destroys 6 droids at once. And then, like, they force push back to, like, 2 or 3 of the guards against the ship and knock them out. And they just, I love a well choreographed fight scene, especially one that just, like, shows off how elegant and in control and forceful the Jedi can be when they're at their best. Like, it's so cool. I just think it's great.
For sure.
So, yeah, I'd say that would probably be my favorite moment.
That's great. Well, that's episode 2 of our podcast. Episode 3 of Tales of the Jedi.
Yes.
Titled Choices with an exclamation point. Jack, any closing thoughts? Anything you're looking forward to? Anything?
I am excited to get back into this podcast. We had only done one episode before this, but even the 1 week off from it, I was like, man, I wish I was doing this again, because this is fun.
I know.
Yeah, it was great.
I was itching for it. Yeah, I was talking with Sarah about it, last Monday when we were supposed to record. I was like, should I just record something? So I wanted to fill my Monday night with something. I was like, I can't talk to Jack. I was like, should I call Max? Because Max because we've talked with Max about doing bonus episodes and him jumping in and talking about Star Wars Visions.
Yes,
which Max is our artiste brother, and he can
very
talk
talented,
about different art,
very visually oriented,
artist.
Very great storyteller. Yeah.
Yep, and Star Wars Visions season 1 is more anime stuff, and Max is rather into anime and things. And I feel like it's very much in his wheelhouse.
Definitely.
To talk about Star Wars Visions. So, Max, we want you. We want you. You belong. Grace, you too.
Yeah. You guys could get some of this sweet, sweet sponsor money that we're getting every episode.
Oh, yeah. From most of our air fryers, so much credits.
So much credits.
So much credits.
So many.
Credits will do fine.
Indeed. Well, yeah, that's been our second episode. Next time, we're going to be talking about Tales of the Jedi, Episode 1, Life and Death. We're going back in time on this particular series. Not back in time chronologically, because we're doing everything in chronological order, as you know, because that's the premise of the podcast. But we are going back and finally watching Episode 1 of Tales of the Jedi for the next time. And this will be our... I believe this is the first episode with Ahsoka. So we'll get introduced to baby Ahsoka. And then after that,
not with Count Dooku.
Yeah, true. Our first episode not with Count Dooku. And then after that, we will we'll be watching The Phantom Menace. We'll be watching our first movie already, after this next episode. So, yeah, exciting times.
It's exciting times,
man.
And with that, we bid you all adieu. Thank you, listeners, for sticking with us for however long this podcast winds up being. The audio file currently is at 1:43.
Yeah.
So it's probably
I'll edit
not
it
that
down
long.
a little bit, but
we took a water break in there, and
Anyway, thanks for sticking with us. We will, especially as we get the hang of things, and I'm sure things will smooth out. We'll become better at being conversationalists and explaining our thoughts. I think I'm still working on that, at describing things in ways that make sense and that are interesting and engaging. But I think hopefully we'll get better with time and with practice, and we'll also get better at managing our time a little bit and making these episodes maybe a little more concise when we can. For
sure.
Because we do tend to ramble. But
yeah, and I'll get better at having things to talk about, because hopefully my life will be more interesting by next week, but who knows?
Yeah, maybe this will be an incentive to make our lives more interesting, so that we have things to talk about on the podcast.
I need more precious content for the podcast, unlimited content. You'd think content would be unlimited, but I don't have enough things to talk about in my life.
Unlimited content, not unlimited time, unfortunately.
Wah, wah. Yeah. All right, Jack, we should sign off. I have a wife to get back to, and you have a life to get back to. So.
That was good. That was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. May the force be with you all. We'll
Bye.
see you next time. Bye.
All right, cut the chatter. Roger, Roger.